So we got a brand new Thursdoid, and we got some really cool new stuff to show off coming in build 42, like how the crafting system works from start to finish, even how breaking down of the materials looks like, and man, it's extensive. Then a better look on how tracking and hunting and how that works. And finally, we have new items being introduced that are, I have to say, pretty exciting. If you guys don't know me, my name is Sunny. I'm the host of this channel, and join our free multiplayer server that we're planning to launch soon here for this community and this channel. As I said, make sure you check the links for our Discord, as that's where all the information will be. But all right, let's go ahead now and dive into all the new stuff. Now, as you guys know, the crafting update is set to have not only things like new crafting stations like blacksmithing or fletchery for bow and arrows, and there's going to be a lot more stuff like this, but it's also set to feature crafting professions, things like an actual blacksmith or a tailor, things of that nature. And build 42 is really introducing a complete overhaul to what we're used to. Now, by the way, I want to say this, the new crafting professions and the crafting stations, I think they said it's going to be optional for those who like the current gameplay. And the big reason this is all happening is because IndieStone wants to make it to where you can build an entire society out in the wilderness without technically stepping into a town and looting. So you're getting kind of a lot of medieval type of professions and crafting stations, but also a mix of what exists out in the world already if you want to go out there and loot and combine it with all this medieval stuff. I actually want to start though showcasing the video that was presented today. At the start of this, you can actually input a canister of petrol here, right? And then you're transferring the fluid, which creates the power to give the sawmill the ability to start breaking down the wood. Now in the Thursdoid, they go and talk about how this new system revolves around components and how engineering and electronic skills are going to play a big part in how all of this is actually, you know, powered and used. They provided the example of the power input and how that provides electrical power to a machine from an external wire, which if you see in the video, there is wires connecting to the generator, then to the sawmill. And then they talk a lot about crafting components that you're going to see a lot of in this video, and how crafting recipes will make use of liquid or an item within a machine's resource component. And this is very extensive, guys. In this video, we have all these machines right here hooked up to each other, and ironically, the base of this entire little mini factory assembly line is about making spiffo orange juice. And they start with the water pump that looks like it's connected to the river. It's like right next to it. He then inputs petrol, and the water pump then creates this steam as fluid. From there, the second machine, the steam boiler, takes that steam, and then they go ahead and they input some logs into the steam boiler, and then it creates power energy to then it looks like power the steam turbine, which is then the third machine. And this is when now we're actually using the juice maker, and it powers up the juice maker and it starts making juices. Then you put in the water, the orange juice, and then the sugar. You throw it into this juice maker with its full power, and then it goes into the bottling station to bottle up all this new spiffo orange juice. I want you guys to keep in mind the bottling machine is still powered by the connections of the machines all together from the previous turbine power. Then the juice is put into the bottle machine, and then it spits out several bottles of juice. But what I loved here at the end, they go to a machine that looks like it's meant for disassembly, and they take that orange juice and they essentially disassemble it, and then they get orange juice and then sugar back. And for the record, I think this is meant for an example of how this entire system works and how it can work with a variety of types of different things and other crafting things, and all these machines can talk to each other and all work together. And this is how fleshed out this entire system will be, especially if this is what you want to make yourself. Now, going further into the blog, they go on to mention that a burglar alarm, for example, will be comprised of a speaker component, a battery input component, and then a motion sensor component, right? And you can go around collecting all these random components out in the world together, and then you can set up an entire motion sensor system around your base, connecting them to lights, and then maybe an entire warning system to give you alerts of zombie or animals that are wandering into your base of operations. Or you could take some of these components and instead make a burglar alarm that makes noise to distract or lure zombies away. Then they go on to mention on how all these systems are a great example of how the functionality is all going to work with all these profession workbenches and crafting stations and primitive machines. And they talk about the medieval constructions and how the power input could be something like rotational energy. So think of a windmill, which I think the video example we saw really gives us a good idea of how energy will power different types of machines. And one thing that stood out that I think that they've mentioned before in previous blog posts is that this entire crafting system will also benefit the machines that you find on the map, and then those industrial areas are going to probably be potential high loot targets, so you can grab these valuable crafting stations. And I know they've mentioned in previous blogs that you can bypass and leapfrog in crafting technology if you get a hold of these lootable machines early on. And finally, on crafting crafting, they go on to say that ultimately this adds more interesting gameplay to base construction and generator usage, and how pipes and wires will facilitate the wiring and the plumbing of the machines, and how the home systems work together, which I have to say, and basically in every video now I'm mentioning this, we are honestly getting like basic lessons on how all these things work in real life. And I'm not a mechanic, I'm not an architect or a construction guy, so I guess I'm kind of learning via Project Zomboid on how all this works, which kind of cracks me up. Then we move on to the new animal tracking system, and this looks pretty fun. They provided another video here. You start off looking for animal tracks in your focus, then you find out what kind of animal it is when you see footprints, or you'll get clues along the way like droppings, and the droppings will give it away. Like this one said it's deer dung, and you'll just get to find out more tracking information the more stuff you discover. Then they show off traps and baits, and we already have that in the game, but here what's different is they ended up getting the bunny in the inventory, and then they set it free, and then you see it running away. So I thought that was kind of neat. And then finally a scene of spotting a bunch of deer and then having to be sneaky, and if you aren't, you're gonna see that they will run away. And I'm now kind of remembering the movie Bambi watching all this unfold, as I'm probably gonna bow and arrow or shoot down one of those deers in the face in my playthrough so I could feed my poor soul. But there it is, that's awesome. And finally the last thing showcased is new items coming, including a new shoulder holster, military webbing also, which can be worn as a shoulder holster and also take up the spot of the fanny pack at the same time. The webbing would provide 2 additional hotbar slots, and this webbing would also carry a walkie-talkie and knives. And then they mentioned that it will be superior to the current fanny pack. So guys, man, this is really a detailed Thursdoid, and I don't know about you guys, but the crafting overhaul is just insane. I want to throw up a screenshot of all the professions and their trees. They're set to come at some point, and they purposely have blurred out the entire thing so we really can't see everything, but it's really crazy and in depth. Hunting really looks amazing, by the way. Farming looks really awesome, and I'm excited for that. And overall, build 42 is just looking really fun. That's all, like, that's the best way I can describe it. So we still have no release date, but if you guys want more information on build 42 and new items that are coming, make sure you guys check out the video on the screen.